200 million boxes in what the New York Times says translates into $800 million annually, sometimes even reaching 1 billion. And none of the direct proceeds reach national headquarters.
Let me guess. Does it have something to do with Thin Mints?
You must have been a Girl Scout.
Yeah, I was one of those kids who was determined to get a sweatshirt for selling 100 boxes. And my mom was even a cookie lady one year, in charge of distributing all of the boxes of peanut butter patties, Thin Mints, and shortbreads to each girl in the troop according to their order forms.
Well, I was not a Girl Scout because my mother said they were a cult, but that didn't stop her from buying Thin Mints and putting them in the freezer. And none of those cookie sale proceeds flow to national headquarters because Girl Scout USA policy is that money stays local with councils and troops. It's a $1 billion ritual that doesn't fund the $1 billion brand. I'm Revi Sterling.
And I'm Melissa Stern, and this is Impact. Quick disclaimer: Impact is for information and entertainment only. Nothing here is financial, legal, or professional advice. Views are ours alone, not our employers, not our clients, not anyone we've ever worked for.
We fact check against primary and published sources, and we correct mistakes. So if you catch something, please tell us. We're not affiliated with, endorsed by, or sponsored by any organization we cover.
So, Revi, I actually didn't know much about the actual workings of the Girl Scouts before we started researching it.
Same, and I was wrong about some pretty fundamental things.
Let's start with what everyone knows. You're at the grocery store or the gym or your workplace, and a girl in a green vest, often introduced by a parent, your workout buddy, or office mate, asks if you want some cookies. And you say, yes.
Yes, even before she finishes the question, I've committed to a few boxes.
Right. And in that moment, almost nobody is thinking she's the final link in a supply chain that runs through two commercial bakeries, one owned by Ferrero, the company behind Nutella, through her local council, and a national technology platform that cost over $180 million to build.
So the kid in the sash is really part of a global industrial operation.
Something like that. Let's unpack what's working and what's not.
Let's go.
Where all this began, Savannah, Georgia, 1912. It feels like the perfect American origin story waiting to happen.
Paint the picture for me.
Imagine a city where the air smells like mud and live oak. Spanish moss drapes from every branch like gray lace. Cotton money built the wrought iron gates, the perfect garden squares, the hushed wealth of coastal Georgia aristocracy. Juliet Gordon Low, everyone knew her who called her Daisy, was born into that world in 1860. Her family had a massive home on Broughton Street. She marries William Mackay Low, British shipping heir, in 1886. But the wedding is a disaster from the beginning. Rice thrown at the wedding ends up permanently damaging her hearing in her right ear. The marriage sours. William dies in 1905, leaving her wealthy, childless, 44 years old, and by every account, absolutely restless.
Looking for purpose.
Yeah. So in 1911, she sails to London. It's there at a dinner party she meets Sir Robert Baden-Powell, the man who created Boy Scouts just 4 years earlier. His sister Agnes is already running Girl Guides across England. Daisy jumps in, forms scouting patrols near her Scottish estate, teaches girls tracking, fire building, citizenship. She comes back to her home in Savannah transformed. The moment she docks in Savannah, she cables her cousin, Nina Pape, a local educator, with words that can be found in the Girl Scouts' own records. Quote, "I've got something for the girls of Savannah and all America and all the world."
Wow, that's quite an announcement, especially without donors or a white paper or something.
Yep. On March 12, 1912, in her brick house at 10 East Oglethorpe Avenue, she brought together 18 girls in her ballroom, and they became the first American Girl Guide troop. Within a year, they changed the name to Girl Scouts.
Weren't there other girl groups at the time?
In 1912, most American girls were trained to be housewives, sewing, cooking, child rearing. Women still couldn't vote in 27 states. Daisy said that girls should master exactly what boys were learning: first aid, map reading, fire building, budgeting, citizenship, self reliance above all else.
Wow. What was the growth trajectory?
Explosive. In 1914, there were 1,000 girls. 1918, 10,000. 1920, 90,000. Daisy died on January 17th, 1927, of breast cancer at age 66 in her Girl Scout uniform. A telegram was found in her pocket from the National Board, and it said, "You are the first Girl Scout and the best Girl Scout in this country." By then, there were 168,000 girls nationwide,
It sounds like Daisy's seeds really blossomed.
but they sprouted systematic problems too. She built a federated movement. Troops raised their own money, communities run local shows. It spread like wildfire.
But it was locked in a funding model that's been challenging headquarters ever since.
Do tell.
Picture 1917 in Muskogee, Oklahoma. In Mistletoe Troop 1, the girls followed a simple sugar cookie recipe printed in the American Girl magazine, which was the official Girl Scout publication. They baked the cookies at home, wrapped them in wax paper, and sold them for 25 cents a dozen in the Muskogee High School cafeteria. This was the first documented cookie money in Girl Scout history.
But not the first big sale ever. Big sales were a pretty common way for schools, churches, and community groups to raise money.
Right. And by 1922, the American Girl starts printing the recipe regularly with, "Here's how your troop can raise money." This is Daisy's federated vision of troops raising money locally, and troops everywhere started baking and selling door to door at churches and in school basements.
No national coordination?
None. Most troops kept it simple: bake sales, car washes, holiday craft fairs. But one council saw the scale potential early: the Girl Scouts of Greater Philadelphia. In 1933, they made a pivotal move, and instead of baking at home, they contracted with a local commercial bakery. Then they set up sales tables in the plate glass windows of the Philadelphia Glass and Electric Company showrooms, selling cookies as a full commercial operation. Most other troops, they were still in their mother's kitchens. Philadelphia showed what was possible.
Amazing. That must have gotten nationals' attention.
At least by 1936, it did. Girl Scouts USA licenses its first commercial bakers nationwide, starting with Keebler Weil Baking Company. But it's not exclusive, and by the late 1930s, at least 5 other commercial bakeries held Girl Scout licenses simultaneously. Girls could still bake at home if they wanted to, and many did, but commercial cookies were suddenly an option too.
Wait, that's getting to the late 1930s. Didn't rationing happen around then?
Indeed. In spring 1942, there was flour rationing, sugar rationing, butter rationing. Commercial baking becomes impossible. The Girl Scouts pivoted to selling Girl Scout calendars. Beautiful artwork, premium fundraisers, and nothing like the free bank promotional calendars. They sold those door to door through 1945, when cookies returned with a vengeance post-war.
And then the chaos begins?
Yes, by the 1960s, there were dozens of licensed bakers, each with their own recipes, their own packaging, their own quality standards. Your Thin Mint in Oklahoma might be crisp perfection, but your cousin in Ohio gets stale disappointment from the same box design from a different commercial kitchen.
Yikes.
Enter Keebler, stage right. One of those licensed bakers intensifies the competition. They start selling their own grasshopper cookies year-round. Their Coconut Dreams? It's the Girl Scouts Samoas by another name, half the price, and available 365 days a year, not just in the precious February Girl Scout cookie window.
So Keebler produced similar cookies and was directly undercutting the Girl Scouts.
Yes. Consumers started asking the obvious question: why pay $4 to $5 for a seasonal box of Girl Scout cookies when Keebler grasshoppers are $2.50 any time? Keebler benefited from all the Girl Scout brand awareness, but without the seasonal constraint.
The pressure to consolidate must have been...
Shull. Girl Scout USA forces the issue. In the 1990s, they were down to exactly 2 bakers only. ABC Bakers, an Interbake Foods subsidiary, has been baking Girl Scout cookies since 1937, and Little Brownie Bakers. There were 5 classics driving 80% of sales, but get this: the 2 baking companies didn't always use the same names for the same company. Everyone had Thin Mints, and those were about 25% of total sales. But in Little Brownie territory, you had Samoas, and in ABC territory, they were called Caramel Delights. Both had toasted coconut, caramel, and chocolate drizzle on shortbread. Same issue with Do-si-dos or peanut butter sandwiches. Those were both the oatmeal cookies with the creamy peanut butter filling, and the tagalongs or peanut butter patties, Those are peanut butter topped shortbread cookies covered in milk chocolate.
We had peanut butter patties where I lived, so we must have been in the ABC territory.
And customers had it fit. You move from California, where you know Samoas, to Texas, where they're suddenly called Caramel Delights. Same recipe, different name, different baker. And customers complained, "Where are my Samoas?"
What about the price? The same?
Not even close. Each individual council sets its own retail price, anywhere from $4 to $7 per box. High cost California councils charge $6 to $7 to cover their warehouse and delivery expenses. Low cost rural Midwest councils sometimes still do $4 to $5 a box. Troops on state borders even get customers driving from across town to buy from a cheaper neighborhood council, a decentralized pricing system.
But don't the councils negotiate directly with ABC or Little Brownie?
No, Girl Scouts USA National maintains the master contracts with both bakers. Each council simply chooses which of the two bakers they want to partner with, usually every 5 years through service unit votes or regional RFP processes. Once selected, that baker handles all the council's logistics, delivery schedules, and regional pricing, and the councils accept the national contract terms. There's no individual negotiation.
But also no money for national. Okay, Revi, when you say national doesn't get the cookie money, most people's reaction is, wait, that can't be right. Someone's making money on all those cookies.
And more importantly, how does national function if it's not taking a cut of the main revenue stream?
The answer starts with structure. Girl Scouts of the USA is the national organization. It owns the brand, the name, the logos, every cookie trademark. It sets program standards. It builds the national technology platforms, things like Digital Cookie and the Volunteer Toolkit. And critically, it negotiates the master licensing agreements with the two official bakers, ABC Bakers and Little Brownie Bakers.
So national controls the intellectual property and the supply chain.
Yep, the bakers pay national for the right to produce official Girl Scout cookies. That's the licensing revenue. But that's not the same as the money from selling the cookies.
How does that work?
Once the cookies are baked, they're sold to local councils. The councils then sell them to consumers through troops, booths, parents, all of it. The proceeds from those sales stay local,
So national monetizes the brand.
but not the transaction. And to understand why, you have to understand the councils. There are about 110 of them across the country. Each one covers a geographic region, sometimes a single county, sometimes an entire state, sometimes multiple states. And here's the crazy thing. Each council is its own independent 501c3 nonprofit with their own board of directors, their own CEO, their own staff, their own budget. They raise their own money, and they control their own cookie revenue.
So it's really like a federation.
Yes, councils affiliate with National through a charter. In exchange for using the brand and operating within the Girl Scout framework, they agree to standards, pay dues and fees, and use national cookie sales systems. But financially, they remain sovereign.
And below councils?
They're troops. Those are small groups of usually 5 to 30 girls led by volunteers. They're not incorporated, they don't have boards. They're the delivery layer of the entire system. And even here, it's decentralized in surprising ways. Troop numbers aren't assigned nationally. Each council assigns its own by whatever system each council wants to use. So there can be multiple Troop 398s, my old troop from a county in New Jersey. But that could be the same number as a troop operating in Iowa or Kansas or Montana.
That could be a lot of random or duplicate numbers to keep track of. Which brings us back to the original question, why doesn't National take a percentage of cookie sales like a franchise would?
Because the entire system is designed around local ownership. When you buy cookies, you're not sending money to a distant headquarters. You're supporting a specific troop in a specific community run by people you know. That's not an accident, that's the product.
And if National took a visible cut,
You risk changing that story from support this girl to fund this organization. That's a very different emotional transaction.
so the structure is intentional.
Deeply. It maximizes trust, participation, and local engagement.
But it also creates the tension we've been building toward.
Exactly. The organization that builds and maintains the system doesn't fully participate in its upside. which is beautiful for the mission.
And complicated for the business model. Okay, so we've got this beautifully designed local system. Cookies fund troops, councils keep the money, and girls learn by doing.
And national?
Well, Girl Scouts of the USA relies on 4 revenue streams, and here's the catch: every one of them scales with membership. It's membership dues, bakers' royalties, investment income, and technology fees paid by the councils.
So if membership drops,
Then everything drops at once. And that's what's been happening. Membership peaked in the early 2000s at just under 3 million girls, but by 2019, it had fallen to about 1.4 million. Then COVID pushed it just over 1 million. And there's been some recovery, but not back at all to historical levels.
costs don't fall with membership.
Right. The tech platform still runs, and the brand still needs defending. The organization still supports councils nationwide. Those costs don't scale down.
So at the national level, the organization that built the system doesn't participate proportionately in its upside. It depends on membership like revenue in a market that's shrinking.
That mismatch between where value is created and where money flows is the crux of the story. By 2024, leadership is signaling that its deficits aren't sustainable, so they propose a major dues increase from $25 to $85.
That's a big jump.
Council delegates think so too. What passes instead is a phased increase: $45 in 2026, $65 in 2027, and so on.
Which creates a classic problem.
Yep, raise too little and the deficit persists. Raise too much and you risk losing members. And now, unlike most of the last century, there's somewhere else that those members can go.
Where's that?
For over a century, Girl Scouts effectively had a category to itself. If you wanted a national structured leadership program for girls, there was one option. Then in 2017, the Boy Scouts of America announces it will admit girls. By 2019, its core program, renamed Scouts BSA, is fully open to girls ages 11 to 17.
Same age group, similar value proposition.
Leadership, outdoors, advancement. For the first time, families have a direct alternative option. Girl Scouts sue in 2018, arguing trademark confusion around the term Scouts. But the case is dismissed. So now there are 2 organizations competing for the same girls in a market that isn't growing.
Does price decide it?
Not really, because it's not a commodity. Some families prefer girl-only environments. Others prefer co-ed. Many decisions come down to troop leadership, geography, or where a child's friends are. But higher prices do one thing reliably: they increase churn at the margin.
Which matters when everything ties back to membership.
Right. Actually, Girl Scouts didn't lose its position because it failed. It lost because the market definition changed. For a century, it was a category of one, and now it has a competitor. And that's a fundamentally different game.
Let's break down the business model. The cookie program is exceptional product design. There's seasonal scarcity, massive brand recognition, and a distributed sales force of girls learning real world skills: goal setting, communication, and money management.
And customer acquisition?
Basically zero. It's habit, community, and trust. You're not buying cookies, you're supporting a kid you know.
I did that this year when I bought a box of Thin Mints, a whole crate actually. So where's the tension?
3 places. First, structural disconnect. As we've talked about, the system generates hundreds of millions annually, but national only captures a small portion through licensing. Most value stays local, while most fixed costs sit nationally. Second, correlated revenue. Dues, royalties, platform fees, they all scale with membership. So when membership declines, everything contracts at once.
No diversification.
Actually, the opposite, concentration. And third, operating leverage. Many national costs don't shrink proportionately with membership, so declines hit harder than growth helps.
Is this a case of mismanagement?
No, that's the important part. It's the result of the design. Girl Scouts are optimized for local impact, not centralized financial efficiency.
So if you're sitting in a board meeting today, what do you do?
You eat Thin Mints. No, I mean you brainstorm for options. Option 1 is already happening: raise dues. But that's a trade off: higher revenue per member versus potential membership loss.
Option 2, expand licensing.
The brand is powerful. But over commercializing risks weakening the core experience, the local personal interaction that makes the system work.
Option 3, alumni.
59 million former Girl Scouts. That's a massive, under-leveraged network. Universities build entire financial models around alumni giving.
Option 4, reposition the narrative.
Right now, Girl Scouts means cookies to most people. But the program delivers leadership training, STEM exposure, and product-based achievement through things like the Gold Award.
So the opportunity.
Involves aligning the public perception with the actual value being created without breaking the system that already works. Before we wrap up, let's not lose sight of what 113 years actually produced. The business model critique matters, the structural tension matters, but the mission impact is real, measurable, and massive.
Help put it in perspective for me.
Girl Scouts has produced about 59 million U.S. alumni, including prominent leaders in law, diplomacy, aerospace, and business.
Girl Scouts has identified alumni including Hillary Clinton, Condoleezza Rice, Madeleine Albright, and Katie Couric.
The Gold Award is the Girl Scouts equivalent of the Eagle Scout. A high school girl identifies a genuine community need: food insecurity, mental health access, environmental degradation. She designs a sustainable solution, secures funding, builds partnerships, executes at scale. It's not a bake sale or a poster contest. It's a real intervention that outlives her project. This process, with real responsibility, real agency, real stakes, builds confidence and resilience.
The Cookie program and related badges teach financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and business skills. Not quite an MBA, but that's a pretty good foundation, plus the outdoor legacy of camping, hiking, kayaking, and survival skills. Mom, you should have let me do this.
So let's extract the lessons.
There are 5 that travel far beyond Girl Scouts.
1. Product beats donation. People don't feel like they're giving, they feel like they're choosing to buy something.
2, align mission and revenue. The girl selling cookies is learning the skills the organization exists to teach.
3. Local ownership drives engagement. People support who they can see.
4, but local optimization can create national constraints. Where value is created and where money flows matters.
And 5. When the market changes, even great models have to adapt.
But here's the earned secret. The Girl Scouts model isn't broken. It's actually one of the most effective distributed systems ever built for youth development. It just wasn't designed to maximize national revenue.
And that's a feature, not a bug.
Exactly.
So the question isn't how do you fix it? It's how do you evolve it without breaking what made it powerful in the first place?
Right. The most successful organizations are the ones that can adapt their model without losing their core.
Thanks for listening to Impact.
And please follow up, share this episode, and tune in for the next one.